Hi, hello, and welcome. It's Lucy from Inclusive Change at Work, our community interest company. And today I'm talking about the Castle Conference, which we are hosting in conjunction with Digital Safety Community Interest Company back up in the northeast of England. But the conference is actually in Bristol. So the Castle Conference is all about digital wellbeing for young people. It's on the 25th of April, 2024. And we've got a range of speakers and exhibitors. And today I'm really excited to be talking to David Brown from If You Care Share, which is a suicide prevention charity based up in the northeast of England. David, welcome.
Good afternoon. Lovely to see you again.
And you, we've kind of matched. So those people that are watching us online, we've got a lot of green going on here. Those of you that are listening to us on a podcast, you can't see, but there's a fair bit of green going on. That's all I'm going to say. David, let's get into this chat. With our speakers and the people that I've been talking to in the past couple of weeks, I usually start with, I hope, an easy question, which is, tell us a bit about you and your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a nice one to start with. So I'm David. I'm the head of training and development at If You Care Share Foundation. That means that day to day, I work on all of our kind of training programs, external engagements with other organizations, really promoting awareness of the issues of suicide in our communities, but also how best to support communities at risk of suicide, and ultimately for an organization which supports families bereaved by suicide, how to best support those communities affected as well. The organisation was founded by a family who lost their oldest son to suicide and really wanted to prevent any other family from going through those same challenges that they faced in those early days following the loss of Daniel. Also recognising that they wanted to educate young people with messages and key aims that maybe Daniel hadn't been taught. He was taught to tie his shoelaces. He was taught to look left and right before he crossed the road. But the importance of what was going on in his mind, how he was feeling in his heart, maybe not the conversations that we'd normalised enough. So that's what we do as a charity. We've got three kind of main aims: prevention, intervention, and then support for those affected by suicide.
I really found that interesting what you said there about you're taught to tie your shoelaces, you're taught to look left and right when you cross the road. But there are aspects of our life that we're not taught necessarily how to do those things. And on another conversation, we were talking about online safety and how to keep yourself safe online. And it's kind of the same thing. We sometimes need to have a bit of help to find out how to make that happen for our mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly for us, it's all well and good learning your numbers, learning algebra, learning kind of linguistics or literature,
Yeah.
all important, and grammar. The most important thing for us, though, is actually how you look after yourself and your own well-being and have that awareness. You know, we can't always control how we feel. It's being able to acknowledge or be aware of that feeling and be able to do something to help us manage that in that moment. And certainly normalizing the conversation that it's okay not to feel okay. In fact, most of us at some point in our life will feel pretty low or rubbish or rough, but it's how we deal with that, what we do with that thought when it emerges, and where we go with that.
I can see this conversation is going to take us in a really interesting direction, because one of the questions I was going to ask is, do you provide therapy If You Care Share, or is it, what kind of things do you do at the organization?
So our workshops with young people, most of our interventions with young people are in the form of workshops in settings that they maybe feel comfortable in or find them in a lot of the time. And those programs are developed by young people, delivered by relatively young people. I think we're all still under the age of 30 or thereabouts. And then we also do have our one-to-one services. Now, we've never set ourselves up as a clinical service, a therapy service as such. What we have as a team is we offer one-to-one practical, emotional, and social support by people with lived experience of the similar issues. Shirley, our founder, would describe herself as a t-shirt wearer. She's been there, done that, got a t-shirt she never wanted to wear, but now she's got it. She wants to reach every other person wearing the same t-shirt and help them in the way she needed to be helped in those early days, which is absolutely the model we work on. And we do refer a number, or kind of navigate a number of people to therapy within our organization. That's something that we fund as part of the organization. That's not something that we want to be a financial barrier, but we also don't want time to be a barrier. And certainly with some of the trauma associated with bereavement by suicide, that right intervention at the right time is so crucial. And if we can support people to access that, then that's what we'll do. But we're not a a therapeutic service in our own. We're not a clinical service, however, we have therapeutic benefits. I always say is the way to describe it.
I can understand, and I'm feeling quite a personal connection here. My own story around my own family. We have a young my daughter, and I will talk about my daughter. She's given me permission to talk about her story at the event at the Castle Conference, and we talk about how she's had suicidal feelings, how she was probably we were on suicide watch for about 6 years in our family, and fortunately she's still here and she's very happy and she's moved through that stage. But also my godson took his life, I think it was back in I can't remember the exact year, so I'm not going to say it, but he was an adult with two young children. And exactly as you said, that intervention at the right time and being able to support families of people who are bereaved is just crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's something I think lots of us, when it happens in our immediate family or community, we don't quite know how to respond. We don't know what to say. Should we say anything? Should we not? Are we going to make it worse? Can we make it better? No, all of those things. And actually having specific services that are tailored and understand the nuance and complexity. Bereavement by suicide is different to other forms of bereavement. It has some
Mm,
similarities to other bereavements, but there are some very specific challenges. And actually very complex emotions associated with bereavement by suicide that don't get talked about so much. Anger, blame, guilt,
mm.
fear. They're not the emotions we want to talk about necessarily when remembering somebody we've lost, but they're very real emotions that we experience, and don't always know how to manage those or deal with those. And then the processes that ensue, inquest, other kind of processes that
Oh
are in
my
place. And the
goodness.
time that takes, just horrendous for families to go through
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And if we connect this to digital well-being and those things that you just said about things like inquest and those kind of things, we've talked about this at Digital Safety about whether and police or investigators look at stuff online, and all of that kind of comes into play in that whole process, doesn't it?
Yeah, and for us, it's something actually now I've embedded in our training following the first Castle conference is encouraging anybody working in this field to ask questions about people's online activity. We're all well and good. What did you do at the weekend? Where did you go? What were you up to? But we're not getting into the what are you searching? What kind of content are you accessing online? What kind of sites are you on? What kind of people are you talking to? All of those are really important things. And in some situations, that's getting picked up. Some
Yeah.
coroners are very astute and are identifying that. Often, again, I think part of the hidden nature of the online and the digital stuff means it isn't getting picked up and it isn't widely recognized. Or if it is picked up, it's then rerouted through some server in Lithuania and we can't track where that's
Mm.
coming from or what's going on. And it kind of reaches a bit of a blockage down the line. But it's also the concern that that can raise for families sometimes is that they don't find out until inquest what has been being searched online
Yes.
or what's been engaging with what people have been exposed to, or some of the behavior of others, how that's had an impact on in an online setting. That and then again, we often try and prepare people or families when they go into inquest that they may hear things they weren't aware of,
Yeah.
and if we can have that information in advance to be prepared for that is really really important.
Because you're going to go through all those emotions again, aren't you? You're going to be looking at things in different lights and saying all of those kind of things. I could literally talk about this for a very long time, David, but I know that we I could literally go down a rabbit hole with you on this, and I can't wait to meet you at the conference again where we can talk about this kind of stuff. So you're going to be at the conference on the 25th of April. Why is this so important for you, and why is it important for If You Care Share?
I think for us, it's recognizing it's not going to go away. The online, the digital is here to stay in whatever form that will take. And what we need to be doing is opening up and normalizing the conversation. We know there's a lot of conversation around the online harms and the kind of the safety elements of that. But actually, we also now know that the digital and the online can be the lifeline to some individuals. You know, a number of people
Absolutely.
we support would never engage face to face, one on one, but actually starting the conversation over email, starting online is an easier way to enter into that kind of conversation and get that support. So for us, it's great that we're working with organizations like Digital Safety Inclusive Change to look at how we collectively all play our part. We're great at the suicide prevention stuff. We're not great at the digital. You know, I'm
Yeah.
constantly encouraging our services to think about what does an Xbox intervention look like in our service? What does that kind of if we actually are supporting a 15-year-old lad who games all the time that there is, maybe
Me.
that's the way we can have the best conversation, you know?
Absolutely. I talk a lot about in change, and in I talk about meeting people at their bus stop, which in a gaming analogy, I'm sure it's like meeting people on their server or meeting people on their platform, because you're not going to get them to come to the spaces where you traditionally expect people to go to make a phone call or drop into a center. It's just not happening nowadays, is it? It's not the same way of experiencing stuff.
No, absolutely. And again, for me, it's the language that's changed. So we say, I hear often in conversations that young people don't know how to express their emotions, don't know how to describe what's going on. I actually think
Mm.
young people have an amazing language of emotion, which is emojis, and the
True.
nuance, kind of
Yeah.
sensitivity around that use. I'm always like, well, why that emoji, not that one? What's the difference between that smiley face and that smiley face? You ask a young person, they can tell you the difference, and that shows a level of emotional intelligence and literacy that most of the adult population don't have. So
Yeah.
again, it's about us who are maybe needing to learn a new language. We shouldn't be expecting young people to speak our language. Perhaps
Yeah.
we need to translate our
We've
language
got
to
to go over into their language. Yeah. No, I think that's I'm hearing that in the workplace as well. I'm hearing people in the workplace and employers and training talking about actually we have to learn a new language now. We have to learn a new cultural ways of being and engaging so that we can engage the younger people in these kind of conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Okay. So here's another question for you from my list. What are you hearing from young people, from parents, from families, and those people within your communities? Is it all really that bad when we're talking about the digital world?
It varies massively, and I think it depends on which day and which person I speak to. A number of our families that we support on the bereavement side will see a real contribution to their loved one taking their own life being part of
Mm,
online. And again, that can be the online bullying element, the stalking element, harassment, kind of. And again, the anonymous nature of that can be really kind of controversial and overwhelming for individuals. And then it's also the access to information online, what is available online, and not all that is online is helpful. Some of it is significantly harmful. And again, I think we often feel that, I would say it's like the tech giants, the social media SARS have
mm.
a level of responsibility and accountability, but it's really hard with technology that's developing all the time and kind of it's evolving faster than our brains can keep up with, really, as to how to change some of those things. uh, uh, the flip side of that we're seeing with young people is some young people, online and digital is exactly where they need to be all of the time, and that's where they find their whole identity. We're also seeing a number of young people who are just saying, do you know what, not for me, been there, done it, tried it, don't like it. I'm sure it's a bit like when you first try alcohol when you turn 18 and you tried it, it's not for me, it takes a
Didn't
little
like
bit.
that. No. Well, I really liked it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And that's, I think, the challenge for all of us is we don't encourage enough conversation offline about the online. So actually professionals, parents, communities aren't having healthy conversations with their young people around what they're doing online. Again, we
Yeah.
often trigger a bit of a safeguarding response, which is important, and I don't ever want us to lose that. But sometimes it can stifle the conversation. Not It's the old phrase of not all that glitters is gold. It's that idea,
Mhm.
not everything you see online is true, not everything you see is real or reality, and that kind of
Yes.
ability to interpret what you are seeing and not just accept it as it is, to kind of interrogate it a little bit. That's the work that we need to do with young people. Is, yes, we might be going online before we speak to a member of staff in our school if we're struggling with our mental health, but knowing what to search and how to search it is really, really important. Because if one word
Absolutely.
changes in that question, what we see could be very, very different and could be completely harmful and not helpful at all.
That is really, really thought provoking. And I just want to touch on something as well in terms of trends and influencers. Do you notice things happen? Do you notice a trend when something might be happening online, or there might be an influencer who said something, or a celebrity where something has happened?
Absolutely. And I think that's something that we've known for a long time in the world of suicide prevention. Depending on how the media reports certain things, we can see then that situation occur more in society. I think the challenge with the digital, the online, and particularly social media is how quickly things move on. So just as soon
Yeah.
as one trend's emerging, we're on to another one. And again, I'm not one for a huge amount of censorship. I don't think that's how we need to
Hmm.
tackle this. Lots of the big platforms just shut things down, but what that does is it drives the conversation underground, and that makes it hard for professionals or people who want to help in the field to be able to
Hmm.
intervene, because then the language that's being used is pushing it deeper and deeper, and we're not aware of those language changes. I kind of want to flip the algorithm. So every time somebody searches something really negative, yes, you can see the first negative post that pops up, but then the algorithm should push 10 more positive, hopeful messages, supportive messages after that. If that was the way
Wouldn't that be
algorithms
amazing?
yeah, yeah. Again, if I was a tech giant for a day, that would be what I'd be encouraging us to do. Is like you can use the power of algorithm. We know the power of algorithms. We know it in terms of advertising. Why are we not
Yeah.
flipping this now to see that as a supportive measure? If somebody searches something negative, we're going to be pushing something positive and solution focused and hope filled, not something that is going to reinforce the negative pattern. I do think, again, influencers, those social media, those kind of high profile individuals, often I think don't realize the significance of their words or
Yeah.
actions and how that translates. And again, I'm not sure how many influencers get any training on suicide prevention or mental health awareness before they go
I
on and do all.
wonder. Mm.
And actually how it's the responsibility they have, in the same way that our politicians historically had responsibilities when they spoke in public, or other leaders
Hmm.
or other influential people in society. That's not necessarily where young people take their inspiration from now, always.
Yeah.
So we need to look at those influences and how we're helping them to see the positive difference, how they can be helpful in these situations as opposed to harmful. And again, I don't often think there's an intention to be harmful in the content
Hmm.
that's put out. It's an unintended consequence. However, in all areas of the world, there are people who will then use that to their advantage to
Yeah.
perpetuate even more negativity and harm, which is what we really want to kind of try and prevent.
Which is where, if you change that algorithm and push the positive, that would be incredible. So I've had and heard a statement recently from a young person that TikTokers don't lie. Just going back to that whole thing about influencers and people not realizing sometimes the power of what they say and do online. What would you say to somebody who says TikTokers don't lie?
I think there's a difference between facts and opinions. And again, one of my favorite films of all time is Inside Out. And there's a very small moment on Inside Out when Joy and Sadness get on a train with Bing Bong, and Joy knocks a box over, and it's a box of facts and opinions. And they go, oh no, the facts and opinions, they all look so similar. And again, I think what we need to kind of encourage young people to, when we hear something, that might be someone's opinion or perspective.
Hmm.
And to them, that is their truth and they own that. That does not mean that it is kind of absolutely true and it is fact. We need to kind of interpret that differently. And I often encourage people to look back at what people have said over a period of time. Have they consistently said the same thing? And lots of the influences I see,
Yeah.
depending on what is emerging at the moment, what the kind of common theme is, then new trends or new language or new opinions or new facts or truths can be shared that maybe are not truths that would have been shared in the past or facts that would have been shared in the same way. So again, I think we just have to encourage young people to kind of, which is hard for children and young people to do without their kind of education and awareness
Mm.
raising around critical reflection of what they're seeing, what you're looking at online. It isn't all true. It isn't all real.
Yeah.
And we have to kind of interrogate that a bit more. And if we're not sure, then actually there's people that we need to speak to who we trust and we do value and are kind of more truthful in some of what they say to us, and hear that. I think the challenge is when there's a disconnect between what the influencer is saying and what
Hmm.
the trusted adults in that person's life are saying, and actually where we would have seen trusted adult opinion massively
And you,
overrule influences. I don't think that's still the same way. So it's not just like you should believe me because I'm your mom or you should believe me because I'm
yeah.
your teacher. Actually, I'm going to have to do a bit more to convince you why this isn't true. And I have to demonstrate evidence. You don't just need to accept it because I'm saying it. Because in that same logic, then we should just accept what the influencer is saying because they're saying it. Evidence in our
Yeah.
conversation is an important thing.
Another thing I could go down a rabbit hole with you on and just delve into that, but we're going to save that for another day. So I think you've alluded to some of the things I'm going to ask you about in a second about what can we do to change? What can we do to make a change to support young people in a digital world? As I said, you've mentioned a few things, but what is it that we can do?
I think firstly, we normalize the time in the digital world and also in the non-digital world, and we make sure that
Mhm.
there's a balance of both of those things. I often think one of my good friends has had a great screen time model with her children all throughout their life, that certain things have to be done or completed before screen time is guaranteed, or there's an allowance of screen time and then lots of other time for other things. And that's kind of a really holistic approach to that, is
Mhm.
seeing the importance of getting outdoors, and again, not just getting off a screen, but actually getting some fresh air, getting a bit of daylight, getting some of
Yeah.
those kind of seeing color and nature and environment and all of those things in whatever setting that is. I always encourage people to look out for weeds in the cracks in the pavement. If you live in quite an urban area, you might not see beautiful flowers, but how many different flowers do you see growing out of cracks in the pavement or little cracks in the wall where
I'm going to
life can
start looking
gather?
now.
Yeah. I think the other thing is, for services like ours, for organizations, charities, people supporting young people, is stop demonizing the digital. Yes, there are some
Yeah.
elements that are really helpful, but we need to not just go all digital is bad.
Mm.
Digital is good with the right parameters and the right things in place. And I think all of us professionals or adults working with children and young people have a duty to kind of upskill ourselves around it as well. You know, we're not all going
Yeah.
to be massive gamers or fantastic TikTok influencers, but we do need to try to kind of understand a little bit more. And you know what? Young people are the key to explaining that to us as well. That's a really kind of amazing conversation that they can give. They can teach us about it. I had to teach my 70-odd-year-old mother about emojis and why devil emojis aren't the appropriate one to describe certain things, which I won't go into here. But you know, it's those kind of things. Let's normalize the conversations. And again, that empowers young people. Imagine if we are empowering young people to lead the safety conversation on the online, not just the no, we want to keep it and you can't take this away from us conversation.
That's fantastic. And the mum and the emojis, my mum tends to pick a favorite emoji, and then I get messages with that emoji on, regardless of what she's talking about. There'll be a butterfly and then some paw prints, and it's just
Yeah,
the cute ones that they see. And the same for me, actually, because my eyesight's not fantastic, and unless I've got the screen on quite big, I can't tell what emoji I'm sending to somebody. So who knows what trouble I get into with an
yeah,
emoji. There we go. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Right. So we're about to wrap up, basically. I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming to talk to us. But actually, if I can ask you one more thing before we finish, and I hope this is something that will be something that you talk about all the time. If you could give 3 tips or bits of advice to somebody who might be feeling suicidal right now, or who might be listening and thinking, hang on, wanna I want to help. I want some help. What would you say?
I think firstly, it's okay to feel that way. Often
Mhm.
the immediate thing is, I shouldn't feel this way, I couldn't feel this way, I wouldn't feel this way. First of all, acknowledge the emotion. And that's a really hard thing for all of us to do. But if we can acknowledge how we're feeling, then we can do something about it. And when I say we can do something about it, we can look at what support we might need, and we can look at what help it is. The encouragement I always have is, don't wait until we're at crisis point to think about what we might need if we were in a crisis. When I became a
Okay.
homeowner, I've got a heating engineer, a roofer, an electrician, and a joiner all saved in my phone in case the roof leaks, in case the electrics go. None of us want to imagine that we'd ever find ourselves in that headspace or in that moment. But what we do is we wait until we're in that moment and then say, well, what are we going to do about it? What help are we going to find? Where are we going to go?
Mhm.
I want to say, let's not think that anything's bad. Let's hope that our lives are never going to be in that position. But just if they were, who would I talk to? Who are the people I trust? Who are the people that I value? Who are the people who I know will listen to me no matter what it is that I share, and will do that with respect and integrity and a willingness to want to help? Again, I think be open to suggestion. If you are in that mindset, it can be very hard and quite tunnel vision, can't see anything else. It's amazing what different things can help us in those moments. When I'm at my
Yeah.
darkest, it's the dogs or the fish tank. I love nothing more than staring at the fish tank for 10 to 15 minutes just to decompress from everything in the world. For other
Yeah.
people, it's exercise, going for a run, going for a walk. We're not all going to be Olympic athletes. We're not all going to be fantastic writers. Poetry is another one that somebody we work with absolutely loves. Those things that we know help us in those moments, lean into those things, focus on those things. If you find that certain things are causing more harm than good, making us feel worse than better, then we need to try and put a stop to them. We need to put them down, as hard as that might feel in the moment. We need to kind of try and walk away from that. And again, it's okay to say to someone, I need help to do this. I can't do this on my own. I need somebody to help me find an alternative or a way of managing. That's not a very succinct 3 tips. I do apologize.
That's
But yeah,
fine. That's absolutely fine. They're real, and I did surprise you with that one. One last one I was going to mention is something I learned from you at the last council conference up in Durham, was a website called the Hub of Hope. Is that something that you still recommend?
absolutely. So again, that's probably one of the ones I should have done as my top tip. But yeah, Hub of Hope. So it's described by the founder of the organization as a Just Eat of mental health support, which I just love that analogy. We're so used to being able to get things immediately, Just Eat, Amazon, all of those. Probably going to get copyright issues there. But anyway, Hub of Hope is directory of services that's been updated all of the time and all kinds of different things. It's not just statutory NHS mental health services, it's community groups, it's group settings, it's individual stuff, it's online stuff, it's websites, it's self-help resources, it's you name it, it's got it. You put what you're looking for, what area you're in, it'll come up with what's available to you, which is just amazing. And it's been updated all of the time. And again, I always recommend that to organizations who hold a directory of services. As soon as you create that directory, it's out of date. So just don't now.
Rely on
Just
them. Yeah,
look back
go
to
there.
Hub of Hope. And if you know of a service that isn't on Hub of Hope, but you think it should be on, you can let them know and they'll add it on. They're constantly updating it and constantly adding new services and kind of working on that. So yeah, an amazing, amazing resource. Again, it's a bit like AA breakdown cover. Have Hub of Hope saved in your phone as a website to go and that's the thing to search when you're struggling, not some of the other things we might be tempted to.
Hub of Hope. Okay. I think it's hubofhope.com, I think, if I'm right.
Oh,
I'll double check just in case whilst we're here, just so that we can make sure. Hope. Oh no, hubofhope.co.uk. So
yeah,
hubofhope.co.uk is the place to search.
perfect. Brilliant.
Right. We are definitely going to wrap it up now. So last thing, how can people get in touch with If You Care Share? If they want advice, if they want support, if they want to donate, if they want to volunteer, or if they want to find out about training, how do they get hold of you and where do they find you?
Brilliant. So we're on all the socials. We're at If You Care Share, and you'll notice from my name on the bottom here, it's the letter U rather than the word U. We did that back in 2005 when it was cool, not quite so much so now. So we're at If You Care Share on all social media platforms if you want to keep up to date with what we're doing. Our website, ifyoucareshare.co.uk. Again, all of the information is on there. And then our email address that we promote to everybody to get in touch with us is share@ifyoucareshare.co.uk. And that's like sharing our name, not Share the fantastic musician. So just to clarify.
Thank you. My brain did go to a bit of Share the music, the singer there, but there we go.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for coming to chat. This has been absolutely fascinating. Can't wait to see you at the Castle Conference, which, just as a reminder, that's on the 25th of April 2024. You can find out more information by going to ICAW. That's ICAW-CIC.com, ICAW-CIC.com. It seems a bit strange, but it stands for Inclusive Change at Work, just saying. You can also Google inclusive change or look for digital safety, ds-cic.com online, and you will find information. Tickets are still available. They are just £9 each for delegates. So if you are thinking about coming along to listen to David, who will be one of our key speakers on the day, get yourself a ticket. For £9, you get to listen to David, to me, to Peter Karolek, Professor Peter Karolek, Louisa Fassi from Cambridge University, and meet a whole range of exhibitors and people who are passionate about this kind of work. £9, and you also get lunch. What more can I say? So that's enough from me. Thank you, David, and goodbye for now.